Hey Chris, how was your Valentine's Day weekend, man?
Ugh, Valentine's. What day is it? I'm still hungover. I've been partying for 8 days, celebrating Parasite winning Best Picture.
So that's what you did on Valentine's Day with your girlfriend. You celebrated Parasite winning Best Picture.
Wait, Valentine's Day? Oh, fuck. I
And
thought there was something strange. I thought she looked a little mad.
Yes, Parasite won Best
Parasite was
Picture.
not the best picture to watch on Valentine's Day, Zach?
Oh, it would be a fun one on Valentine's Day. I mean,
She seemed to enjoy it.
yeah. Finally, the Oscars. The Academy didn't screw the pooch.
It was crazy. It was honestly, it was best case scenario for most of the awards, and especially after the shit show that was last year.
Mm-hmm.
Last year we had Rami Malek for lip syncing win Best Picture. We had Best Actor, Green Book taking home Best Picture. It was just a night of Academy,
Yeah.
what did you do?
They were trying to rectify things this year, and
Yeah, it's almost like the Academy as a collective finally got on Twitter.
I mean, when Bong Joon-ho won Best Original Screenplay, I was like, "What's going on here? Something's this doesn't seem right." I mean, I was happy for him, but I was like, "What's going on?"
I was just like, oh, the racists are going to be mad, and
Yeah.
I'm going to enjoy every minute of it.
Yeah. So Valentine's Day.
Did you watch the film Valentine from 1998?
Oh hell no! Jesus.
Hey, that movie has a shout factor release, which
I
means
saw
it's
that movie
pretty
in
good.
I saw that movie in theater, Chris. It was not a good time.
I mean, somebody out there likes it, apparently. It had a good killer mask, I'll say that.
I remember the arrow through the heart. The one
Sure.
girl was shot with a bow. And Denise Richards is in
You say
that,
so.
right?
Yeah. Is she not the one who gets shot through the heart?
I think isn't she electrocuted in a jacuzzi? Am
Uh,
I way off?
I believe you. You could say anything to me right now about that movie, and I would believe you.
Oh, see, we should have just
Isn't Denise Richards the killer?
we should have just dedicated an episode to Valentine.
We should have. Or My Bloody Valentine, which is actually the superior Valentine's Day murder
yeah,
movie.
of course, but
Yeah.
All right, everybody, welcome to another Miserable Podcast. If you're tuning in for the first time, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you had a wonderful Valentine's Day. I hope you're still enjoying your miraculous 3-day weekend. It is a 3-day weekend, at least for me. I don't know if it is for you.
Oh, no.
No.
What weekend? I get no weekends.
Oh,
I am
I'm sorry.
enjoying the Ferrero Rocher that I got my girlfriend, though.
Oh, Ferrero Rocher, it's good
I'm
stuff.
gonna open the crinkle in front of the mic, so this will be good. This will be good Foley noise for the listeners at home.
Great.
This is ASMR for weirdos.
Just as I'm pitching the show, crinkle your wrapper in front of the mic.
I'm done.
So we are another Miserable Podcast. We are not your average everyday horror podcast because it's because we're just two average white dudes.
We barely have time to keep up with the horror stuff.
So yeah, we talk about we review current horror movies, and we do retrospectives, where we'll talk about generally we'll pick a year, and we'll talk about 9 horror movies from a said year. We have one coming up very shortly, which I'll talk about later. But yeah, it's always a good time. We keep it nice and fun here and accessible. If you're new to horror, we like to talk about lots of new horror movies, introduce you to things. So it's a good time. So thank you so much for joining in. All right, Chris. So I have a question for you. Let me introduce my co-host. One of our co-hosts is missing today. Professor Casey could not make it this weekend because he's spending it with his lovely girlfriend. So I hope they're having a wonderful time. But I am joined.
He had a girlfriend. This is new information.
But I am joined by the classiest co-host, the Doctor Who from Little Rock, Mr. Chris Pistol.
Howdy. I've come from the year 2000. The robots have taken over.
And
there's no mistreatment of the elephants anymore. I mean, there's no elephants, but there's no mistreatment of them anymore either.
That's good. And my name is Zach. I produce and edit this sucker, so howdy. All right, Chris, I have a question for you.
I have an answer for you.
What is your innermost fantasy, Chris? You don't have to answer that on air. You don't have to answer that.
Okay, well, it involves peanut butter.
How about this?
A large T-Rex action figure.
What's your innermost movie fantasy? Like maybe your innermost, like what would you like a collaboration, or like if you could
peanut butter.
If you could have one thing happen, if you could make one thing happen in cinema, like some collaboration, some project, what would it be?
Ooh, I'd probably get Willem Dafoe, Robert Pattinson, and put them in a lighthouse. And shoot it in 4:3 in black and white. Oh wait, this has already been done.
I figured it would just be Wes Anderson and Edgar Wright just staring longingly at each other for like 90 minutes.
That would be lovely. Yeah. I don't know what they would talk about. I don't know if they would get on as well. I don't know. Because I feel like they're two different kinds of filmmakers. That would be interesting though. Yeah, I would like to see that just to see what would happen. It probably wouldn't be as delightful as I thought it would be. But I'd like to see Edgar Wright win Best Picture in 2021 for his upcoming psychological thriller, Last Night in Soho. If Bong Joon-ho can do it, Edgar Wright.
Yeah, that'd be. When is that releasing?
I'm not 100% sure. I think somewhere in the summertime.
I'm definitely excited to see him do a thriller. That's cool, a psychological thriller.
Well, the fall, which would be prime time for Oscars.
And the trailer for that new Wes Anderson film just came out, The French Dispatch, right?
Yes, it did.
It looks very Wes Anderson.
It looks like ASMR for film, for art film, just like cinephiles, just like in the most like perverted way possible.
Is it all black and white or
no? I think parts of it are in color. I think I'm pretty sure it is or at least how the trailer presents it, that it is a anthology film. So it's going to be like 4 different stories that all revolve around this paper.
Yeah. Okay, well, that setup was not to introduce The French Dispatch.
The only horror podcast where we will talk about Wes Anderson trailers.
It was to introduce and set up Blumhouse's newest release, Fantasy Island, directed by Jeff Wadlow, who did Truth or Dare, Kick-Ass 2, among other things.
Zach, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Fantasy Island seems like a weird idea for a horror movie. Was that a horror TV show?
I haven't seen any of the original show, but I know some episodes had horror elements, so it's not like completely out of left fields.
I just assumed, I didn't know what that show was. I mean, I know the show, I'm aware of the show.
Ricardo Montalban and then Hervé Villechaize plays Tattoo.
Yeah, the plane. I'm mostly familiar with the Looney Tunes movie that Fantasy Island inspired, Daffy Duck's Fantastic Island.
Oh, yeah.
Which I have on VHS recorded.
Let me circle back. So they try and pay homage to this TV show in a few ways. They say the plane, like, I don't know how many times in this movie.
Oh my god.
It's hilarious. The first line in the movie, which is like, I mean, you want to hear it, so it's great, but they certainly bring it back.
But they don't have a
but it's it's not Hervé Villechaize doing it, so it doesn't have the same effect. The first time doing it is it's a pretty woman. So it's not the same thing, but
but she looks right into the camera when she says it.
No,
and all the millennials are
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. And all the millennials in the audience are like, "What?" Because they have no idea what Fantasy Island is.
To be fair, I watched a trailer of the show, of the TV show, before seeing the movie, because I knew of the show, but like and the Michael Ricardo Montalban and Hervé, but I didn't remember all. I didn't know all like I didn't know a ton about the show, so I was just kind of giving myself some insight. Okay, so Fantasy Island, directed by Jeff Wadlow. So this is Blumhouse's newest experiment. They decided to try and adapt this TV series into a horror film, or the writers did, and it's not very successful.
Okay, what happens in the movie, Zach? Because it kind of looks like a Saw ripoff.
Oh, it's a ripoff of something, but it's not Saw. So it basically takes all the wrong cues from Cabin in the Woods. It's basically, yes, that's the vibe I got. It's not very Saw. It's much more
like story-wise, or
like the concept of there's this group of people that are they're going somewhere, and there's a lot more going on that meets the eye underneath the Cabin in the Woods. There's like this whole operation, and I'm not gonna spoil Cabin in the Woods. It's awesome. Go see it. But yeah, it just felt like they took the wrong cues from that movie. So like in Cabin in the Woods, you have like there's all these different monsters that are revealed later on, and it's in Fantasy Island, you have this group of people that I guess have won this contest. Michael Pena plays the Rourke character, and he was a good choice to kind of fill that role of Ricardo Montalban.
Sure. I mean, I was saying the other day, if there is a current Ricardo Montalban, it is definitely Michael Pena.
Yes. So they go on this island, and the problem with this movie is these fantasies are like all over the place. So it's just tonally, it's like up and down and night and like they try and kind of tie it together, but like some of these fantasies are like more lighthearted than the others. I mean, one of the fantasies, Lucy Hale wants to get revenge on a childhood bully. Okay. One of the fantasies, a guy always wanted to be a soldier. Two of the guys, one of the fantasies is just like as generic as it comes. It was
cannot relate, but okay.
Yeah. So these fantasies, there's more to these fantasies that I'm saying that I'm giving you the bare bones version of what they are. That sure. There's more to it than like the guy just wanted to be a soldier. Mm-hmm. But like, I guess evidently they filled out like a 1-page questionnaire, and these fantasies are just based off generic answers they gave them that Michael Pena has crafted.
You did not think the fantasies through.
The most entertaining fantasy is probably Ryan Hansen and Jimmy O Yang play like stepbrothers, and Jimmy O Yang is this this Asian dude, and Ryan Hansen is good-looking blonde-haired guy. So they play stepbrothers that are very broy. And their fantasy was just to have it all. So they're like at this, big ass, they have set up this big ass rager party on this island for them. And then, so, obviously there's more to these.
Have it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, on the show, I guess the kind of the conceit is these fantasies, there's always a moral and there's a lesson, and things don't go according to plan. And so they try and just do that with more of a horror twist, but they don't go as far as they should with the kind of horror twist, I don't think. Okay. But yeah, so these dreams, they all have kind of deeper meanings. They're Maggie Q's character, who's probably one of the more interesting characters in the movie. She regrets some life choices. Initially, it seems like she's regretting saying no to her like boyfriend of 5 years and splitting up from him when he proposed to her. And so they kind of recreate this scenario, and it's like, is this a fantasy? How is this possible? So you kind of slowly but surely you find out how these kind of fantasies are coming to life throughout the film. There's kind of this like kind of water that is spoilers. I'm not going to spoil the whole movie here. Let me just say real quickly, I will spoil it if I really don't think it's worth your time. This probably isn't worth your time, but it's more worth your time than the other movies I saw in January, like The Grudge and The Turning. So
things are slightly starting to get better.
So I'm not going to spoil it completely if you want to see it. Chris hasn't seen it either, so I don't think he's going to see it.
You don't know.
Yeah. So basically, there's kind of like, this isn't really that big of a spoiler, but I mean, one of the things that's going on is there's like this island has like magical properties, and there's this water that can be used to kind of bring people's innermost fantasies to life on this island. Mm-hmm. So they're almost like kind of drugged in a way. Anyway, so these fantasies take different turns, and it's just they kind of jump back and forth between them. Eventually, they intertwine later on. It's like Cabin in the Woods, because the way these fantasies turn out, they're kind of different. There aren't monsters, but there's different kind of villains or figures that kind of appear you know,
There's somebody pulling the strings.
yeah, kind of, as these fantasies turn, some of the people that like these people that appear in these fantasies, like they appear like humans, something will happen to them, and then like their eyes will like kind of explode and black liquid will fall out. Ooh. And then later on they reanimate. Kind of, this sounds a lot cooler than it is. But they kind of try and tie these together, and it has that cabin in the woods. There's more going on underneath the surface. Okay. And okay. There's,
so it's not just like it kind of almost seemed like it could have been a Amicus anthology kind of film. I don't know how familiar you are with those. Like, there was a series of like anthology films in the 70s where it was just horror stories, and it was kind of, each one kind of had a moral to them, but it was just an anthology where each person would kind of tell a story, and there was always like a unifying kind of factor they would come back to. But
yeah, I mean, you just don't end up caring too much about what's going on. The stories are these none of them are scary. Like the turns they take, one of them is like close to maybe like a just a generic slasher, hostile sort of torture kind of scenario. That's probably the most straight up horror turn. The other ones kind of take turns of Ryan Hansen and Jimmy Yo Yang. Their fantasy is interrupted by someone that's trying to, like, this bachelor pad where this party has been taking place. These guys come in with machine guns and they're trying to kill the person who owns this pad, who, like, no one owns it. It's supposed to be a fantasy, but I guess they're like after like drug money and stuff. But so it's not like ostensibly horror. It's just kind of like, well, this is not what we paid for. Or
not what I paid for.
Well, I guess they didn't pay for anything. They won a contest. Things take more twists after that are more in the realm of horror, but it's still, I felt like if they had gone more in the cabin in the woods direction and made like twisted these fantasy into actual like horror movies, like we see like, a werewolf or something, like more into the realm of horror, more like,
right,
rather than just kind of
more to say, because Cabin in the Woods, at its core is like a sort of dissection of the horror movie genre, and asks like questions of like, why do we enjoy watching these types of things? But this is more just kind of it is exactly what it kind of appears to be, sounds like.
Yeah, I just think, like, see, they could have taken these fantasies and turned each of them into a horror movie, and they don't really do that. They turn them into, like, not great scenarios, like bad things happen, but it's not really a horror movie. There's, like, an underlying thing that's going on this island, and there's a lot of, like, twists and turns that they try to throw at you in this film, and I appreciate that they at least took some risks, but it doesn't really pay off, and it's not all that interesting. There's, like, it's... without really spoiling anything, there's like a guessing game. It's like a whose fantasy is this really? And it's kind of just a guessing game, and it kind of goes back and forth as these fantasies kind of intertwine with each other. And you kind of, again, spoilers, you kind of find out that these people that are brought to this island are all kind of connected in some way. And so it's, I just felt like taking Fantasy Island and throwing like a horror twist in it. Okay, you just needed to go all the way with it, and they didn't really. They just it wasn't horrific enough. There wasn't, we needed some more monsters and some more. They just could have had a little more fun with it than they did. They just, it could have been done better. So, but I appreciate Blumhouse taking a risk on adapting something like this. It's certainly one of their lesser efforts. Alongside things like Truth or Dare and stuff. I don't think it's gonna be remembered alongside the Conjuring kind of series and stuff. It's more along, they're one of the Purge spinoffs or something, but no, it's not going to be anywhere near as successful as those, because those films are super popular, I think. But if they can't hit everything out of the park, it's okay. It's not that I gave it 2 out of 5. Mm-hmm. There's some fun performances. Lucy Hale has fun in her role. She kind of playing this high schooler is trying to get revenge on her bully. It's okay. Michael Rooker has a fun part. They don't give him enough to do, but he's like playing this islander that's kind of like this sort of, he's trying to expose what's going on the island, and so he like was like kind of a guest on the island, and he like stayed back, and so he's trying to expose what's really going on, and so he kind of has a fun part, but they don't really give him a lot to do. But he's probably one of the better parts of the movie, next to Maggie Q and Michael Pena, I guess I would say. Jimmy O Yang too. The cast is fine. It's just there's not enough going on. Portia Doubleday has a bit part. She's from Mr. Robot, and among other things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's okay. They're just I appreciated they tried to tie in more nods to Fantasy Island at the end, which I can't really get into without spoiling anything, which I kind of was cute, but it's
and they don't tie in Daffy Duck's Fantastic Island.
No, that would have made it better.
Disappointing.
So that is Fantasy Island.
I would have been thrilled if I had just gone into the theater and they just started playing Daffy Duck's Fantastic Island. It's like, yay! 4 stars.
Yeah, so that is Fantasy Island. It was not my fantasy, but
oh, nice tagline.
Yeah, not my fantasy. Okay, so quick editor's note. Chris did not have his blue microphone selected for like the first 20 minutes of this. I am so sorry.
Zach, the real tragedy is that now the ASMR rapper joke is not going to play. You're not going to get the full effect.
No, it's just going to sound distortion. So I'll probably
I can do it. Oh yeah, you hear that, rapper? You like that? You weirdos out there? You sycophants who like rapper noises? There.
Yeah.
Now this episode is perfect.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, guys. If you listened to last week's episode, you might have noticed a little more audio distortion in that as well. I messed up the settings in recording, so this is the second week in a row where we're having audio recording issues. I am sorry. It will not happen next time, I promise.
Hey, if any of you are out there are fans of Fighting in the War Room, which is one of my favorite podcasts, but has terrible, terrible audio, you will be completely forgiven of us.
Okay. Please forgive us.
That podcast is... It like I have to listen to it because it's so interesting what they're talking about, but it's like they're recording it on their phones. They're constantly talking over each other, so you can't understand what's happening half the time. Our podcast is way more professional, Zach.
I try and make it sound as pro as possible, and then these hiccups happen.
You do a good job.
Thank you. So we just got done talking about Fantasy Island. Again, hashtag not my fantasy. I'm sorry. I'm not. That's the last time I'm ever going to do a hashtag on this show. Forgive me, listeners. I'm so sorry. This is a serious show. No hashtags allowed.
No. Speaking of serious, I've been watching The Outsider.
Outsider.
And it is the most serious thing.
What? How many episodes in are you to The Outsider?
I'm on episode 4.
Okay. I think I'm on the same one. Yeah.
I think they're up to 6 or 7 that they've released now.
Yeah, I'm a little behind, but I think I'm on 4 as well. Yeah.
Which going into it, I just assumed that it was done, and didn't realize that it's still going on. And I'm
you did not.
No, I need to slow down.
You did not read the book, right?
I did not read the book. In fact, I somehow forgot that this was even a Stephen King adaptation until probably episode 2, when it starts to become very aware that it's a Stephen King adaptation.
Yes. I enjoyed the book. I think, as I mentioned last week, I thought the book was, last episode, the book was good. It is good. I just didn't think it was great. They kind of stretch things out a bit more than they need to, and there isn't kind of enough set pieces in the book. So far, I'm really enjoying the series. The first 2 episodes are riveting, man.
They are.
Jason Bateman is terrific. I mean, he directed the first episode.
Yeah.
And he is really good in his role. I can't really say anything else without spoiling stuff, but there's a scene he has with...
We're going to have to get into spoilers at a certain point, I think.
Yeah. He has a scene with... I forget the name of the actor that plays the main detective. Do you know his name? He's the villain in Ready Player One. He's very good in this.
Yeah, he's in tons of stuff. I can't remember his name, but he's in a ton of stuff.
Talk, Chris, while I figure this out.
So yeah, I went into this not... Somehow I've forgotten that it's a Stephen King adaptation, and I think I saw a trailer for it. So I think the trailer that I saw for it just sets up that there's a murder. Jason Bateman is the main suspect, so there's some doubt as to whether or not he did it. And I thought watching the first episode, I thought that's pretty much going to be the show. Like, this is going to be the show. There's going to be an investigation. We're going to keep going back and forth, whether or not Jason Bateman is the actual killer or not. And you could do a whole, like, short series just on that. I don't know how... I started to feel like, I don't know how, like, they're going to keep this going. Like, are we just going to keep going back and forth into whether or not we think he's the killer or not?
Mm-hmm.
And then semi-spoilers, but when she get to episode 2, you quickly realize this show's taking a dramatic turn.
Yeah, a bit supernatural.
A bit, yeah.
Yes. But that's the setup, and I think it's really a great setup because it's just this mystery that seems impossible. It's just, it's a murder that took place, and they have all the evidence in the world, and then all of a sudden there's all the evidence in the world that he didn't do it, like at the same time. Yeah. It's a really great setup, and Ben Mendelsohn is the actor, the actor, and then
he's also in The Dark Knight Rises.
And the actress that was nominated, or Harriet, plays Holly Gibbs, who's the best character in the book. I'm, of course, forgetting her name, so hold on one sec.
Oh, okay. So she is the best character in the book.
Oh, she's by far. Cynthia Envro.
Okay.
Cynthia Irvo.
Okay.
She's by far the best character in the book. And she's great on the series so far. I'm excited to see what else they do with her. We're only 4 episodes in.
Well, when she is introduced, I think she's introduced in episode 3, or at least episode 2.
Which in the book she's not introduced till halfway through. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, when she's introduced, it definitely starts to feel like a Stephen King adaptation. That's when I start to feel the Stephen King stuff coming through.
Yeah, I think she was, interestingly enough, in the book, she was a character in a prior series of his. I think it's the Mr. Mercedes series. So he like kind of, he connects his stories in the kind of same universe, Castle Rock. But
I haven't really like cemented my feelings on it yet, but I definitely feel like after season 2, season 2, I keep saying that. After episode 2, yeah. I'm glad that the show turns and like becomes about something completely different. At the same time, the first 2 episodes are so kind of like grounded in a reality, or at least like a sense of reality, that I feel like her character sticks out a little bit. Because, so she's this character who comes in and she's somewhat of an investigator, she's not really a psychic, but she's kind of seems like she's on the spectrum. She's basically got like superhuman Sherlock powers.
Lots of like OCD.
Yeah, like I can remember literally everything, and I can pay attention to every single detail, to the point where it's kind of like, okay, well, that's not real. This doesn't feel like a real person. And it just feels like a little bit more of a book character than it did like a real person.
I could see that.
Up to that point, everybody else feels like a real person.
I can see that, but at the same time, I definitely think her character is necessary for the story. It's a little, as good as it is, I think, and Ben Mendelsohn is good. It's a little dry before she, like, I don't think the episodes are dry, but like I think she kind of injects, a good kind of energy into the proceedings, because it's until that point it's just a bunch of old white dudes trying to solve a murder. Yeah,
that's true.
So I think I can see she feels more like a book character, and she certainly is, because she does all these idiosyncrasies and stuff to her.
Yeah,
but
I feel like they kind of give away the goat a little early. I think we need to go into spoilers a little bit.
Okay, we're gonna spoiler The Outsider. We're only 4 episodes in, so it's
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I think as close as it as early as episode 2, I feel like you start to put the pieces together that the characters don't start to until like an episode and a half later. So I feel like it kind of takes a little too long for characters to catch up to what's going on, to what the audience pretty much already has guessed, which is there's some sort of doppelganger situation going on. And maybe it's just because I watched the double like a couple of days before I started watching this movie, but I was like, doppelganger.
They do start to look into doppelganger. The thing that they aren't questioning is whether this is something supernatural, which I'm not going to spoil, because I've read the book, so I know where it's going unless the series takes a weird turn. But they've already set up where it's going, so...
Okay.
And in the book, you kind of don't really find out exactly what this sort of supernatural entity or whatever it is till later on.
And you've kind of got this sequence, at least I think in the last episode that I saw, where she starts to investigate this sort of legend that people know of that's kind of a boogeyman type legend of a
El
monster.
Cucuy.
Yeah.
Or El Cuco.
Anytime that happens in movies where someone just starts investigating like a specific thing, it's like the Bagul thing in Sinister, where it's just like, okay, this has been done so many times, of just like, we reach out to somebody and somebody always like has a conversation with someone where they're like, oh yeah, my grandmother told me this legend of the Cucuy.
It is a real...
or the Bagul.
It is a real, like, like Latin American legend. Like,
yeah, no. I'm not saying it's not.
I'm not saying,
like,
I don't know if he's real, but
it starts to feel like a cliche to where, like, is my grandmother the only grandmother who didn't tell me legends of monsters to like get me to be good as a child?
Your grandma didn't tell you about the Babadook, Chris?
No. My grandmother just gave me ice cream and said, "Be quiet."
My grandma just told me to get a job.
Exactly.
That was a Billy Madison reference for those. I love that movie. Okay.
But yeah, I haven't cemented my feelings on it as of yet. I think the first 2 episodes are super, super strong.
They are.
And it's starting to get a little like, okay, kind of just get on with it at this point. I'm kind of intrigued about what's going on with what's the other cop character's name? The guy who hunts.
Oh, the asshole. Yeah.
Yeah, he has this interaction with something in the barn.
He's a prick.
He seems to be going through a Renfield situation.
That's very accurate. Yeah, I won't say anymore, but it's very accurate. You're right, because the setup is so strong that it's hard to it's just hard to top the setup. You know, it's hard to figure out what direction to take the story in. And the direction they take it in is decent. I do think Holly Gibney adds a lot to the story, but it's hard to measure up to the setup. And I think there's this scene between Ben Mendelsohn and Jason Bateman, and like Bateman should get a fucking award for this scene. It's just so well presented, and even better so than in the book. And it's riveting. It's like some of the best acting and tension you'll see in any medium this year. And I
wonder if he's gonna come back, because he was like in the trailer, he was billed as like second build, and I guess we're in spoilers. Something happens to where
I'm not gonna tell you,
back
but
after episode 2.
I'm not gonna tell you, but don't get your hopes up.
Oh, okay. All right then.
It'd be nice if he came back. Because he's one of the best characters on the show. He's just not on it for very long. Yeah. But I do think that I have hopes that the direction they're taking in is they expand on it more than they did in the book, because there just wasn't quite enough. There wasn't enough to it, and but I do think there's been some. Cynthia. There's this. Did you get to the scene in the prison where she interviews like the inmate who committed a similar crime?
Yes.
Like, that stuff was really interesting, and that's expanded from the novel. That wasn't in the novel. Yeah. So the fact that they're kind of tracing back whatever this entity or this thing that's going on, that's following people, that's getting them to, that it's with these seemingly innocent people winding up in prison.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Expanding on that has been very interesting, and it's better than in the novel when they didn't expand on it as much as they could have. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of tracing back the origins of this, which they don't quite do in the novel. I've found very enjoyable. So it's really a great mystery. It's still engrossing. It's just probably not as engrossing as the first 2 episodes, but I'm sure you're gonna keep watching, and I'm gonna keep watching it until it's conclusion. So I definitely highly recommend that. That's on HBO Go, right? HBO.
Yeah, sure.
You can find it on HBO Go. Yeah. Highly recommend that. Anyway,
we got some trailers to talk about.
I have another movie to review, Chris.
Oh shit. You better hurry.
We have time. So a lot of kind of indie releases came out this weekend alongside Fantasy Island. We had The Lodge. There was a movie called VFW, which I have yet to see, or The Lodge.
I forgot about The Lodge.
Yeah, I had reservations to see The Lodge, and it was like after work, and then I was just like, I'm too tired. I can't do this.
I don't think that's playing in my city.
There's some limited showings in my local theaters. I was fortunate, but I didn't go. So, but I did because it was either between seeing The Lodge or I could see Come to Daddy, which is available in limited release in theaters, but also on demand. So I was like, I can just watch this at home. So I'm gonna do that. It cost $6, but I didn't.
What the hell is Come to Daddy?
So Come to Daddy is directed by Ant Timpson. This is his directorial debut, but he's known as a producer. He's produced like Turbo Kid and Housebound, Deathgasm. So a lot of cool indie releases.
I like Turbo Kid.
This stars Sir Elijah Wood.
Ah, okay. See, I've been seeing Elijah Wood pop up every now and then on my Instagram or my Twitter, and I'm like, oh, he's probably got like a weird indie movie out.
I texted you about this movie, dude.
You did, yes.
Yes.
No, it's all coming back to me.
So yeah, Come to Daddy is a very interesting kind of film. It's tonally, it's kind of like a tale of two halves. The setup is Elijah Wood plays this son that's kind of his dad left him when he was like 5 years old, and he's gotten a letter from his dad to come see him, and his dad is separated from his mom, and so he goes to see his dad, who lives in this kind of reclusive area in kind of the wilderness near kind of a beach, and so he like hikes to see him, and it's a very strange sort of interaction, and his dad is kind of like a drunk, and it's just, there's just a lot of tension between them, but it's kind of like, you know, it's you kind of see this play out, and something's not quite right, and you're not sure what exactly isn't quite right. And the second half of the story takes a turn. Again, I don't want to spoil it because Chris hasn't seen it, but the story isn't something it's not completely new. It's this kind of tale, and the twist it takes have certainly been done before, but it's ordinary person kind of thrust into an extraordinary situation sort of thing. But, you know, it's kind of suspense thriller more than a straight up horror movie. But Elijah Wood is really great. It's kind of a different sort of role for him. You know, he plays this character that he's trying to kind of make himself to be into a bigger deal than he is in front of his dad. He's trying to, there's a scene where he's bragging about like that he's, big in the music industry, and he's, like he's friends with, Kendrick Lamar and Elton John. But he's lying, and he's not. And his dad calls him out on it right away, and
I feel like I've heard of these types of people in LA specifically, like just stories of like my friends whose friend is dating someone like this.
Yeah, and he has this phone that's like it's like a really like limited edition. There's like one of 20 of these phones that were made, and he's like trying to take a selfie with his dad, and his dad accidentally drops it into the ocean. So it's really interesting. It's kind of like there's a lot of tension in this first half, and it's just these two characters. There's nobody else. And then it takes a turn in the second half of the film, and as long as you stick with it, it's a fun ride. Some people are going to like enjoy the first half more than the second half. Some people maybe the opposite.
Okay.
But I think it's entertaining, it's not a completely new story, but then again, what is, but it's Elijah Wood is really enjoyable. The supporting cast is great. As a directorial debut, Ant Timpson, I think he did a pretty good job. So I know I'm being kind of vague, and again, there's a lot kind of that you maybe don't know about the story, but I think if you watch the trailers, you'll get a good enough of idea. It was entertaining. It's not gonna knock your socks up, but it's good. I would say 3.5 out of 5 stars for me on this one.
Okay. I think it's Elijah Wood's personal goal in life to play every kind of character imaginable at this point.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of cool stuff with his like Spectravision, studios, and it's really cool to see him kind of branching out and doing a lot of just independent kind of horror releases and stuff. And he's been doing this for a few years now, so it's cool to see.
He likes weird shit. You gotta give it to him.
He does. He has a really odd haircut in this movie. I'm just gonna say, and like a haircut and a mustache. He's clearly it's very hipster. He's wearing one of those elongated like t-shirts, and it's very fashion forward, which what do I know about fashion? So it's it's a very kind of fashion designer. But there's some really great stuff in here, some great acting. Elijah Wood's fantastic, so I definitely recommend watching it. Okay,
Cool.
so before we head out, we got a lot of trailers to talk about. There's a lot of different things that have been dropping. So I don't know what to get into first. How about that? I know A24 is kind of the new art house horror guru on the scene here. They've been releasing Midsummer and Hereditary, and they released a new trailer, The Witch. So they're kind of cranking them out. The Witch kind of put them on the map. It seems like kind of like a new renaissance for them. It's like sort of like kind of thrust them into the spotlight. Now they're like duking it out with Blumhouse. And so they just released a trailer for this film called The Green Knight, which I guess is based off an Arthurian tale, which I had not heard of.
Maybe.
That's what it says.
Okay.
It's kind of like, it looks like kind of like a fantasy horror film with Dev Patel. It just looks really cool. Like, so much to say about the story.
So this is directed by David Lowery, who did A Ghost Story for A24.
Oh, right.
Also did Pete's Dragon.
Oh, okay.
And The Old Man and the Gun last year.
Okay.
He just like seems to switch before. Pete's Dragon was this sort of like Disney film that was very like subtly and artistically done, and then he did like A Ghost Story, which is like the most art house film and one of the most art house films of the last few years.
Yeah.
And then The Old Man and the Gun is kind of a little bit more of a traditional type of reflective movie. It's really it was one of my favorite movies from a year or so ago. I think really underseen. So I like how he just kind of switches back and forth between the sort of weird and the more traditional or the more accessible. And so after The Old Man and the Gun, he's switching right back into weird again.
Yeah. So it looks cool. I'm excited to see more. That it's very much a teaser trailer. A24 also released a trailer for this film called Saint Maud, which I couldn't even really explain the plot because it was shown before Fantasy Island, and it's just watch the trailer, guys. This is terrible to listen to because I couldn't really tell you what it's about. It looks
I have not seen
like it looks like an A24 film. So I'm excited to see more of it. It's seems to be about a girl going crazy.
Okay.
I don't know if she's a nun. I mean, it is Saint Maud, right?
Saint.
Not Harold and Maude. This is not a prequel.
Okay. I found it.
Yeah, reclusive. Maud is a recluse. I'm reading a Wikipedia summary. Maud is a reclusive young nurse whose impressionable demeanor causes her to pursue a pious path of Christian devotion after an obscure trauma. Now charged with the hospice care of Amanda, a retired dancer ravaged by cancer, Maud's fervent faith quickly inspires an obsessive conviction that she must save her ward's soul from eternal damnation, whatever the cost. Yeah, that's not that. It's kind of hard to get that plot from the trailer.
Hey, it's only 84 minutes.
Yeah, I'm sure it's
Definitely seeing it.
It's A24, so yeah, I'm sure it'll be quality. So let's there's two more trailers I want to talk about. These are kind of more mainstream trailers. One I want to talk about The Hunt. I'm kind of afraid to talk about The Hunt, but so Blumhouse has ratcheted up their marketing for The Hunt. They're saying it's the most controversial, the movie everyone's talking about, which not really. It stirred up controversy when it was released over the summer, and then they delayed the release because it came out. The trailer came out after a bunch of school shootings, and so it just was not the time for this sort of film. And so they've released a new trailer that is better than the original trailers. It looks like, I appreciate, again, Blumhouse trying to take risks. It's not really something that I'm that excited to see or to review on here. It looks okay. It just seems like they're trying to kind of stir up a frenzy.
Stir up something because they don't have much of a movie to sell, maybe.
It kind of feels like they're kind of sitting on the next Purge sequel, and so they came up with this to kind of fill the void, which just isn't quite as fun as the Purge,
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of what it feels like. It'll be interesting to see what the response is when it officially comes out next month. And I'm sure we'll be here to cover it for you lovely folks. But it just kind of, it seems like they're just trying to stir up stuff, and there's already enough stuff to stir up Blumhouse. If CNN has a new crazy story every day. We're not going to get too political on here, but I think that goes without being said. So I don't think we need The Hunt to really add fuel to the crazy fire that is the state of America right now. But that's The Hunt, so we'll cover that more when it comes out. Last but not least, Spiral from the Book of Saw, the first trailer for this new Saw entry from Chris Rock.
Bait and switch. Total bait and switch.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this, guys. It's a Chris Rock movie. Oh, look, it's a thriller. Oh, twist, it's a Saw movie.
Did you not know he was doing a Saw?
Not until this trailer popped out.
You didn't know? Okay, yeah, I definitely knew this. It was certainly news when it came out, and people are kind of like, what? That's weird.
It is weird. It still feels weird. The trailer feels weird.
What was the last Saw movie you saw, Chris?
Oh, God.
The Saw movie you saw.
I saw one of them in theaters. I know I saw 1, 2, and 3. And then after that was kind of like, eh.
Did you like the first one?
Yeah, I liked the first one a lot.
Yeah, the first one's great. The second one is okay. And then after that,
I don't remember 3. Yeah, I don't remember 3. And I know I saw another one after that in the theater, but I don't remember it at all. It might have been 4 or 5 or 6. I can't remember.
I think I've seen through 4, but I don't. 3 and 4 are very hazy. You're not missing anything. It just gets more and more convoluted. And then they did like kind of a spin-off Jigsaw, which I did not see.
Yeah,
it just got way just too much. And I think you're good on. Really, the first one is the one to see. The second one is fine.
Well, at least stylistically, this movie, whatever it is, looks very different.
No, here's the thing. I believe it is connected to the rest of the series. I really wish it was just a reboot because I don't who's gonna know these connections. The Saw series was it's just such a messy plot line that so convoluted that I just don't think there's much to really want to connect it to. I think a reboot would have been much more a better idea personally, but we'll see how they connect it. It looks like a much needed, if they're gonna bring it back, it looks like a much needed refresh. Hopefully it doesn't devolve too much into the torture porn that the series devolved into, because that just became what it was about, and instead of an interesting story, which is what the first one told with a really crazy twist. And hopefully it's captures more of the spirit of the original than the rest of the sequels.
Yep.
So we'll see. That is Spiral from the Book of Saw, and that's going to wrap it up for us today. Shorter episode for us today. Chris has to go to work. But before we go, let me plug all our social medias and stuff. So you can follow us on Twitter. We're on twitter.com/MPOSofficial. That's twitter.com/MPOSofficial. We also have a brand new YouTube page. You can find that from our Twitter page. Actually, we don't have a custom URL yet. We need a certain amount of subscribers, so subscribe to us, please, so we can give you a custom URL. It'll be easier to remember. But you can find the link on our Twitter page, or if you go to YouTube, you can search Another Miserable Podcast on YouTube. All the new episodes will be uploaded there, alongside all the usual platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We do about 2 episodes a month. So this will be the second episode coming out this month, but we're going to try and do another episode soon. You can also follow my friend Chris here on Twitter. What is your Twitter, sir?
It is @ChrisPistol with a K.
KRISPISTOLE. You can follow my personal Twitter @Earth2McFly. That's Earth, the number 2, and McFly. You can follow our other co-host, Casey, who is usually with us at twitter.com/LuchaGringo. LuchaGringo. Again, please subscribe to us if you haven't on any of the platforms.
Please, I'm hungry.
Apple Podcasts, Google Cloud. This is what feeds Chris, even though we make no money off of this. So please get us.
Hence the hunger.
Yeah. Please help us. So please subscribe to us. We really appreciate it. Next time on Another Miserable Podcast, we have something extra fun for you. We are finally doing the next entry in our retrospective series, Another Miserable Retrospective, 1993. We're going to talk about 9 horror movies from 1993. That'll be the next episode. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's been a while since the last one, so we're excited for that. I hope you guys eagerly anticipating it. I'm sure you are. So thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We'll see you guys soon.
Stay spooky.
Stay spooky. Later.